Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing abrupt climate change. And the evidence just keeps on rolling in. Thank you guys, as always, for your comments. I just posted a video last night, and I haven't even looked at the comment section of the last video, but here I am doing this video. I'm going to try and get to the comment section tonight. Hopefully. Just weird, wacky schedules I'm trying to work around. So I want to read a couple comments. Start with some comments. A couple of good comments. This is from Mark Young on the video about glaciers will continue to melt over the next 100 years. It is the #1 feedback. Arctic ice on its deathbed. Kilimanjaro is all but gone. The Himalayas are 65% gone. Glacier National Park has no glaciers. No ice means, which cools the earth by 10°C, means that 10°C is the warming we have now ensured. That is hothouse earth. No point in wishing anyone good luck in hothouse earth. But hey, I'm hoping a few may survive in an inhospitable planet, on an inhospitable planet. Anyways, severe droughts all around by 2030, and that's not considering how crops will grow in these conditions. I like that comment. This one is from Valhalla 56 on the latest video. I think Hambone is mistaken to ban talking about geoengineering on his channel. Think about it. The economy collapsed in 2007, 2008. The Federal Reserve printed trillions of dollars out of thin air, and it has kept the world economy afloat for 10 more years. They did what it took to keep the world from going full economic depression. They fracked to prolong the oil from stopping. So what makes Sam think that they wouldn't do the same for the atmosphere? That they wouldn't use SRM and HARP to mitigate what they can? Sam and Guy McPherson say it isn't working. Really? How do you know? Maybe it could be worse if they were not geoengineering. It would be worse if they were not geoengineering. I'm saying they will use whatever artificial means to keep things going. If it is money, they will print. If it is money, they will print it. If it is oil, they will frack it. If it is climate, they will chemtrail it. And that's the end of that comment. I thought that was a great comment. Valhalla, frequent commenter on the channel, always with good, intelligent things to say, and I appreciate that. I don't have anything to say about how other people are running their channels or whatever. I mean, it's just, you know, it's everybody's choice to watch whatever channel they want. But interestingly, you know, that brings up the subject of conspiracy theories again, and you know, the willingness to allow voices on certain things. I guess that somewhat mirrors my threat to delete, you know, denier commentary on my channel or what have you. You know, and that actually goes kind of against the grain of what I have to say daily on this channel, which is that, you know, we totally should and should allow other voices to be heard at all times, and should allow other ideas into our sphere, even though we don't agree with them. That is my belief. That is truly my stand in the world and on this channel and, you know, on the internet. I do believe everybody has the right to say or think or do what they want. I get pissed off once in a while. I've gotten pissed off at everybody. I get pissed off at liberals. I get pissed off at conservatives. I get pissed off at climate journalists, at climate scientists, at climate deniers. I get pissed off and I start, whatever. I'm prone to my outbursts as well as anyone else. My main thing about deniers on this channel are that they do not add anything good to the conversation, or they just keep talking about the same tired topics, tropes, or whatever. And I think climate denialism is very different from geoengineering or chemtrail talk. I don't find it as, I don't find chemtrail talk, though I'm not a full-on proponent of they're chemtrailing everyone and they're doing this and they're doing that. I don't know what they're doing. So please, before you comment, because I always get these comments when I talk about people are like, you believe in chemtrails. You're all talking about chemtrails. No, I don't believe in chemtrails. I suspect that something is going on. I don't know what it is that's going on. And I'm not sure, so I can't speak with, total concrete knowledge about it. I think that there is enough evidence out there. There's enough evidence that they've tried to alter the weather or the atmosphere. I mean, it's actually documented that the Army, the military is interested in this, has engaged in the practice, has tried these things. So like, if they've already tried it, they're damn well doing it. They didn't try it and they're like, oh, it just didn't work out for us. So, we decided to go a different direction. If you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. The same thing with, the Operation Mockingbird. If you don't know what Operation Mockingbird is, please look it up. Go ahead and Google it. It is a CIA infiltration of the news corporations or news stations, American news stations, in order to peddle propaganda. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's actual fact. They had hearings in Congress about this. The CIA admitted to doing it. It actually happened. Just look it up, okay? If you're too lazy to look it up, you're gonna have to believe me, but don't come on here and say, nah, I didn't do that. So the thing is this happened, this absolutely happened. And this was back in the 70s. And to think that, the CIA admitted to doing this and they're like, well, but we won't do it again. We're done with that because, we just love the American people and we want what's best for them. If you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. They are still infiltrating the news networks. They're still a big part of the propaganda going on. And if you think that's wild, look at the fact that it actually was admitted by the CIA and by the government themselves. Yes, we did this. It is a fact. That is conspiracy fact. That happened. So, I just, somebody asked me about conspiracies the other day, or was, kind of ranking on me a little bit about it. Like, you talk about these conspiracies as if we should just believe you. No, you shouldn't just believe me. When I give you conspiracy fact, all you need to do is use your little Google fingers and go look up some things. It will literally take you 5 minutes to verify what it is I'm talking about. It's very simple to find out information, to get information on this. And that's, really my problem with climate deniers, is that there's this overwhelming avalanche of information and somehow it's all false, or somehow it's all, I don't know. They only really have, one little item, one little scraggly, something to hold up as, the reason why we're all wrong. And I'm sorry, that just doesn't hold any water. It doesn't amount to anything like the actual evidence of climate change. So I don't care if somebody, is a denier or not. I care that it hurts our chances of, accepting on a mass level that this is a problem we need to deal with. They're getting in the way. Like I was saying the other day, they're getting in the way. You're a denier, you're getting in the way. And that makes me extremely angry. You're getting in the way out of ignorance and out of willful ignorance. And willful ignorance is one of the things that absolutely triggers me beyond control. Like I have no patience or time for people who are willfully ignorant, or for people who just spout, kind of half-baked ideas in comment sections of videos. Like I just, whatever. The thing is that there's always multiple sides to every belief and every story. There's multiple sides to the belief in the stories of chemtrails, or multiple, sides of, 9/11 or school shootings, or, the deep state, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The best thing that I can tell you is to do your homework, is to be an informed person about this. There are plenty. The thing about chemtrails for me is that there seems to be, beyond the obvious, empirical evidence of seeing stuff happening in the sky. There is evidence of maybe changed toxicologies in some places, but I'm still kind of grappling with the on the fenceness about it. I'm actually grappling with what exactly it is that, the actual truth of what it is that they might be doing. I'm fairly confident that something is going on. I'm just not sure, is it cloud cover? Is it creating cloud cover? Is it actual, chemicals to produce certain effects? We know that, they seed rain clouds, or, they seed clouds for rain. This actually happens. This is called geoengineering. So, that's conspiracy fact. That actually is happening. That does happen. That they do that. And they also, shoot certain chemicals up into the sky to produce rain. There was actually a news article about that in LA, or a news blurb about that a few years ago when we were in the middle of a huge drought. They were like, yeah, we have these things that are basically shooting, I don't know what it was they were using, sulfur dioxide or something. I'm totally off on that, but whatever it is they were shooting in the sky, they were shooting things in the sky, and they were admitting it. They were like, this is what we're doing. Geoengineering. That's geoengineering. Yeah, whether it's working or not, I don't know. My thoughts on what they're doing here is they are trying to affect the amount of sunlight, or, getting to the ground, on a basic level. They are creating clouds. For the last couple of days, there has not been one contrail in the sky, not one. That's as suspicious to me as contrails or chemtrails or whatever it is you want to call it, because I can't believe that there's there's conditions for chemtrails that are very similar to the conditions we have right now. And I've seen chemtrails or contrails or whatever you want to call them all over the sky, all over the place. And yet they're not happening now. So why is that? I don't believe that the conditions can just, at certain atmospheric or at certain altitudes, you're going to have certain moisture / cold effect that's going to produce contrails, if they're naturally occurring. So why is it that they're not happening? They're happening some days, they're not happening other days. Your guess is as good as mine, but I find the whole thing very, very suspicious. I'm just not, I don't have as much concrete, evidence that I'd like to just run, I can't just run with, this is what I know is going on. So I'm, I can only speak about my suspicions, not my absolute knowledge. the thing that we do know, absolutely, is that, you know, whether or not the mechanism of climate change or global warming is happening, like if you want to sidestep a denier's, you know, whatever they are, like, so you got people saying there's a new ice age and the modern minimum and the big do's, like there's people all on that, you know, on that road. What you can do is sidestep that and say, like, but what about the actual you know, what about the ways in which we're destroying the environment, like that don't even have anything to do with warming, with the mechanism of warming, right? There's, you know, there's overfishing, there's insect death, there's, you know, animal population death, there's, you know, clear cutting of forests, there's plastic just, you know, inundating whole countrysides and whole nations and whole cities, and, you know, changing, you know, the makeup of the food that we're eating. You know, there's all of these things happening that are well documented that don't even have anything to do with climate change. They have to do with us just overrunning the earth, just absolutely taking down the earth by pollution, by extraction, by bulldozing, by, you know, we're doing this. It's happening. We can go that route. You know, you can always possibly talk to a denier, like, what do you say about this? What about, isn't it, you know, do you want your kids breathing in pollution? Do you want your kids getting cancer from, you know, living under electrical lines? Do you want your children getting cancer from living next to a toxic waste dump? You know, living next to a nuclear plant, living, you know, et cetera, on and on and on. There's so many examples of the way in which we are killing ourselves and killing the earth without even bringing climate change into it. You know, that is absolutely happening. While we're on the conspiracy tip, just for a second, I'm going to link this article. I'm going to link this article, and the reason why I'm linking this article is just for fun. It is a video of a plane knocking a helicopter out of the air. The plane basically running into a helicopter. A helicopter is like on the tarmac or above the tarmac in a small, you know, small airport, and a small plane whacks this helicopter. And actually the plane goes down like real fast. The helicopter kind of keeps spinning around for a second. The tip of the wing of the plane just, pow, breaks right off of a helicopter, smashing into a small, little, tiny, doesn't weigh very much, not stationary object. The tip of the wing, pow. The plane, literally, the wings literally fold immediately when the plane hits the ground. That's how fragile the wings of a plane are. And the reason why I say all this and the reason why I'm linking this is that if you think, just to go back to a major conspiracy theory or conspiracy fact, if you think that a plane's wings can penetrate a steel and concrete building, no matter how large that plane is, if you think that they can penetrate like butter, like a knife through butter, a steel and concrete building, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. It is absolutely physically impossible. And yet I've had people that said that they have engineering degrees tell me that, like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, sure. No, if you have an engineering degree and you think this is possible, please report to your nearest university and turn your degree in, and then go do whatever it is you need to do with your life, but stop being an engineer, because the fact that you believe that that's physically possible means that you don't know very much. Again, if you want to know more about these things, all you need to do is research it. But you can't just be like, you know, you really got to get rid of your like, no way bias before you actually research it. You have to actually open your mind, look at the facts, and do more than 1 or 2 videos, or read some articles, actually look into what it means to research something that is physically possible or physically impossible. Again, another one, if you believe the magic bullet theory, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Anybody who believes that a bullet can travel the way this bullet travels, can take out 2 people and do the damage that it did on the outward leg of its ricochet, you don't understand physical impossibilities or possibilities. You don't understand physics. You just don't. But the average American person doesn't understand physics. Wouldn't know physics from a can of tuna. Like, you don't understand, and that's why these stories work, because you just say them on TV, and they're like, I heard it on TV, so it must be true. Don't be one of those people. Really, seriously, I urge you not to be one of those people. I read it in the Washington Post. It must be true. I read it in the New York Times. It must be true. CNN told me. If you are one of those people, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Moving on. To go back to the conspiracy of climate change or abrupt climate change, this is how badly they want to hide the destruction from you, is that they're, in some places and here, they're willing to jail people, kill people, lock people up, murder people. You know, this is what it means to believe in the fact of climate change and environmental destruction, and to be against it. UK government urged to take action against London, listed Vedanta resources after London listed Vedanta resources after protesters killed in India. That is a highly strangely worded headline. I'm sorry. But anyways, this is from May 29th. From Desmog, UK. The UK government has been urged to take action after a British mining and energy giant was accused of extensive human rights abuse and environmental damage in India. Vedanta Resources, a British registered company listed on the London Stock Exchange, is under the spotlight after 13 protesters demanding the shutdown of India's second largest copper plant in the southern state of Tamil Nadu were shot dead by police. Dozens were injured. The deadly mass protest is the latest major incident to engulf Vedanta, which has been accused of a series of human rights violations, with campaigners demanding the company be delisted from the LSE. Police opened fire on the crowd and unarmed protesters who demanded the closure of the plant, citing environmental concerns, including pollution of groundwater and the threat to the local fisheries, according to the reports. On the same day, Vedanta reported a 33% rise in the company's profits, with revenues of $15.4 billion in the last year. The LSE told DSMOG UK, it would not comment on the events in Tamil Nadu or on the company's listing. Human rights groups have called on the UK government to launch an investigation into the events in an effort to hold British companies that use the LSE as a cloak of respectability for their dirty business abroad to account. Yeah. London Stock Exchange used a cloak of respectability. Miriam Rose from the UK-based campaign group Foil Vedanta told DSMOG UK due diligence had not been properly done on the company before it was allowed to list in London. DSMOG UK previously published a special investigation into the role of London's exchange in creating a safe space for companies to operate in remote places around the world beyond scrutiny. Oh, is that happening? Anyways, on Monday, authorities in Tamil Nadu ordered the permanent closure of the plant following last week's deadly protests, citing concerns over pollution, and launched an inquiry into the events. The plant has been closed since late March after the local pollution regulator said it was not complying with environmental rules. This comes as Vedanta planned to double its copper production at the plant to 800,000 tons per year, which sparked more than 100 days of mass protests. In a statement, Vedanta Resources said the closure of the plant was an unfortunate development and that the company will study the government order and decide on the future course of action. In a prior personal address to the people of Tamil Nadu, Vedanta chairman Agarwal said he was very sad to hear about the deadly incident, which he called unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that we have to destroy the earth and kill people who don't want that to happen. It's really, it's going to be unfortunate when, we reach 4C globally and, billions of people are just passing away, in a few months' time. That'll be unfortunate too. We're strictly following what the court and government orders are. I assure you I'm totally committed to the environment and the people of Tamil Nadu and will abide by the law of the land, he said, as he asked the local authorities for Vedanta to be able to continue to operate. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Severe environmental damage and systematic human rights violations. Concerns have long been raised over Vedanta's activities in India. 2016, the Council on Ethics for the Norwegian Pension Fund sent a letter to Vedanta CEO Tom Albanese explaining why the fund refused to reinvest in the company. Nearly a decade later, campaigners say little has changed to ensure robust sanctions are taken against British companies breaching international guidelines on human rights and environmental damage when operating abroad. That isn't a new story. U.S. trained special forces joined police crackdown on dam protesters in Honduras. It started at dawn. A vehicle full of Honduran police officers showed up at around 5 a.m. on May 3rd in front of the community protest camp in Pajueles, where residents have been present day and night for more than a year to prevent the passage of hydroelectric dam construction machinery. Less than 2 hours later, the whole area was crawling with hundreds of members of various police units, including regular national police, the Police Investigations Directorate, the Elite Cobras Unit, and the Tigres Special Forces, which are heavily supported by the U.S. and trained by Green Berets from the 7th Special Forces Group Airborne. It was like a war zone, Pajueles community leader Albertina Lopez told Truthout. Police forces lined the immediate area along the nearby highway that runs from El Progreso up to Tela, along the Caribbean coast in the Atlantida Department. Soon they were also lining the road past the camp and up to the contested construction site of the Mazapa River Dam. They showed up in convoys escorting machinery, construction materials, and company personnel up to the site where Honduran company Hydroset has been trying to build a 1.3 megawatt dam. People were scared, said Lopez. Nevertheless, she and a few other women made an attempt to stop the machinery, lying down in the road in front of the protest camp to try and stop the machinery's passage. That's when they started firing tear gas at us, she said. People scattered, ushering a 75-year-old protester and children to safety, but Lopez and others maintained their permanent presence at the roadside resistance camp throughout the police operations that lasted 2 full days. State violence against community resistance to natural resource exploitation projects continues unabated in Honduras. The recent crackdown in Pajueles to impose a fiercely contested hydroelectric dam project is just one of the latest incidents, but it provides a clear example of the involvement of U.S. trained and supported special forces in repression against community activists. Honduran security forces, including those receiving funding and training from the United States, have been implicated in human rights violations in recent years. Christine Wade, a Washington College professor of political science and international studies, told Truthout. The targeting of environmental and land rights activists is just one facet of this. Despite these abuses, funding continues to flow from the U.S. Of course it does. Our military installations remain open to train Honduran security forces, and impunity reigns. Unless the U.S. acts decisively to suspend aid to security forces, these abuses will continue. Yeah, where are our concerns for human rights? How come we're not going into Honduras and, you know, making sure that um, human rights aren't being abused? I mean, by my God, the Intelligence and Special Security Response Group units, Tigres, an acronym that spells tigers in Spanish, in case y'all didn't know that, were created back in 2013 when current Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez proposed a bill as president of Congress. The initial proposal was for more of an explicitly military police hybrid force that would have been transferred from the civilian oversight to the Secretariat of Defense in times of war. Those elements are removed from the bill before its passage. The Tigres now fall under the Police Directorate of Special Forces. I'm going to tell you how corrupt Tigres is. No surprise there. Earlier in the morning of May 3rd, before Morgan arrived, police arrested a local Pahuiles resident while he was filming the security forces operations. Albertina Lopez, Lopez's brother, Norberto Lopez, was taken into custody, accused by police of causing a public scandal. According to locals, however, he was arrested simply for reporting police. He was released without charges later that afternoon. He was far from the first to suffer criminalization related to the protest camp, however. His sister was acquitted, but 11 Pahuiles residents are still facing trial. Organized in local community groups by sector, Pahuiles residents are members of the Broad Movement for Dignity and Justice, or MAJ, which grew out of prosecutors' hunger strike against corruption, and now also focuses on natural resources and human rights issues. MAJ leaders and community members alike have been subject to a barrage of threats, intimidation, and attacks, particularly in connection with the dam protest camps in Pahuiles and in Arizona, also located in the Atlantida department. I'm not going to read this whole article. It's very, very, very long. At the moment, legislative action with regard to aid the Honduran security forces is limited to elements incorporated into appropriations legislations that condition half of U.S. aid to Honduras on Department of State certification of compliance with a series of loosely worded human rights measures. These or similar requirements have been incorporated into appropriations legislation for a number of years now and have had no observable positive effect to date, wrote Maine. The last time they certified the government's compliance was actually just 2 days after last year's incredibly problematic elections, providing the government with a needed boost just as they began deploying security agents, including Tigres, military police and conventional military troops to violently repress protests. Back in Pahuiles, many residents are still shaken from the recent massive deployment of security forces there. Police took photographs of protest camp participants and community leaders during the operations, and they have been informed by the residents that death threats against them continue to circulate, said Albertina Lopez. They're planning to formally report the latest threats to Honduran authorities, but we don't have much faith it will result in any action. State institutions don't function. They don't function at all. Not for us, said Lopez. However, Lopez and other activists at the protest camp are not giving up and have vowed to resist the dam. We continue to struggle. We continue the struggle, she said. All right, I'm going to link this in the description box below. This is everywhere. This is all over the world that, you know, the biggest hammer seems to come down on people with environmental concerns, and you wonder why. But seriously, if you're out there protesting, oil pipelines or fracking or, oil rigs or, cutting down trees or clear cutting forests, you will absolutely be stumped. And that's why more radical environmental groups are no longer around. That's why Earth First isn't around. They absolutely got stumped. And it's, you know, it's just a rarity to see. They still have a lot of major protests, like up in the Pacific Northwest. I see a lot of, you know, pretty nicely sized environmental protests, but I really don't see it anywhere else in the U.S. Very, very few and far between. And that's unfortunate. Lastly, I'm going to read this article called "Our Plastic Pollution Crisis is Too Big for Recycling to Fix." Recycling alone will never stem the flow of plastics into our ocean. We must address the problem at the source. That means don't use plastic. Don't buy it. You know, recycling is all nice and well. Start at the source, which means do not use it, or do not make it, actually would be better. Every minute, every single day, the equivalent of a truckload of plastic enters our ocean in the name of profit and convenience. Corporations are literally choking our planet with a substance that does not just go away as we toss it into a bin. Since the 1950s, some 8.3 billion tons of plastic have been produced worldwide, and to date, only 9% of that has been recycled. Our oceans bear the brunt of our plastics epidemic. Up to 12.7 million tons of plastic end up in them every year. Just over a decade ago, I launched The Story of Stuff, great videos, to help shine a light on the ways we produce, use, and dispose of the stuff in our lives. Story of Stuff is inextricably linked to the story of plastics. The packaging that goes along with those endless purchases. We buy soda, sip it for a few minutes, and toss its permanent package away. We eat potato chips, finish them, then throw the permanent packaging away. We buy produce, take it out of the unnecessary plastic wrap, then throw its permanent packaging away. The cycle is endless, and it happens countless times every single day. But here's the catch. There is no away. As far as we try to toss a piece of plastic, whether it's into a recycling bin or not, it does not disappear. Chances are it ends up polluting our communities. Oceans are waterways in some form. For years, we've been conned into thinking of the problem of plastic packaging can be solved through better individual action. We're told that if we simply recycle, we're doing our part. We're told that if we bring reusable bags to the grocery store, we're saving the world. We think that if we drink from a reusable bottle, we're making enough of a difference. But the truth is that we cannot recycle our way out of this mess. Recycling alone will never stem the flow of plastics into our oceans. We have to get to the source of the problem and slow down the production of all of this plastic waste. Think about it. If your home was flooding because you had left the faucet on, your first step wouldn't be to start mopping. You'd first cut the flooding off at its source, the faucet. In many ways, our plastic problem is no different. We need corporations like those like Coca-Cola, Unilever, Starbucks, and Nestle that continue to churn out, throw away plastic bottles, cups, and straws to step up and show real accountability for the mess they've created. Drink companies produce over 500 billion single-use plastic bottles annually. There is no way that we can recycle our way out of a problem of that scale. Municipal bag, cup, and straw bans like those in Morocco, Iceland, Vancouver, and some U.S. cities are a great start, but also not enough. And while cleanup efforts are helpful in addressing litter problems, they can't begin to touch the problems created by microplastics, the tiny particles of plastic that now permeate our waterways and broader environment. Not long ago, we existed in a world without throwaway plastic, and we can thrive that way again. The world's largest corporations with all the profits and innovation labs are well positioned to help move us beyond single-use plastics. All over the world, people are already innovating towards solutions that focus on reusing and reducing plastics. It's time to accelerate this process and move beyond half measures and baby steps. Corporations are safe when they can tell us to simply recycle away their pollution. But we aren't buying that anymore. This is their crisis to tackle. We will continue to do our part, but it's time for the world's largest corporations to do theirs. Some 322 million tons of plastics were produced in 2015, and that number is expected to double by 2025. Yeah, so much for any kind of hitting any kind of mark, treaty mark, agreements, goals, sustainability levels, so much for that. The good news is that we are at a turning point. All over the world, people and businesses are waking up to the dangers created by single-use plastic. Now we must demand a new era that prioritizes people and planet over profit and convenience. What do you think? You think we should just shame the shit out of people that use plastic? Should we, you know, should we go super duper hardcore? I know it's very difficult to not use plastics. Extremely difficult. It's hard to go buy food, you know, at the store without buying up some plastics. Really, really difficult. There are ways. There are ways to cut your own plastic usage down, meaning not buying or using plastic. You just have to be super vigilant. And you know what? I totally encourage you to shame the shit out of your friends if they're using plastic, or if they're just not aware, if they're unconscious plastic users. Just go like, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. Do you know how bad the plastic pollution problem is in this world? You know, it may not help in the end, but every little bit, little by little, we may possibly magically find a way out of this. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. I hope to be back tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace.